This is Puzzle Rush. I am Phoenix. I am your host. We are going to be doing a survival mode on chess.com, going slow, explaining everything. We are going to try to get to 60. Let's do it. The reason we play slowly is because the other timers are 5 minutes. That's not enough time. And I'm not interested in proving how fast I can move the mouse. I'm interested in playing good chess. So we're going to back rank mate this guy till he gives up. Now, I do want to explain all the little tactical puzzles that I'm seeing because I want you to be able to do these as well. So we have, in this case, a back rank formation. See, the bishop covers this square. So that makes this a back rank. We just have to look around for a piece that moves along a rank, which is a queen or rook, and take a piece. Same thing, back rank formation. We will checkmate there. This is a side rank formation. See how the king can't get out? Same idea. Now we have a typical smothered mate formation. Anytime you see a king in the middle of the board like this, the first thing you want to look for is there an f2 pawn? Because if there's not, we want to go like this and checkmate him. The second thing you want to look for is, do you have this, like, what would this be? Like a W shape kind of going on here. If you do, chances are there are holes right here that you can put something in, and it looks like that's going to be a knight, and that's mate. Now, what is this one? This is called Anastasia's mate. You can tell because you have this, but there's nothing on the H file. The whole way up. The whole H file is empty. So when you see that, you want to think about pushing the king over there and then checkmating them there. And in this case, it looks like this. Now the knight holds this square. We have that same sort of side rank formation again. I'm going to have to take their bishop. But no problems. What do we have? Looks like we have a mate in the back. But we are pinned, so we're going to use the rook to do it instead. That's a mate in one. Okay, kissing queen. That's when a queen goes right next to a king, and he can't escape. He has few flight squares, and in this case, the only flight square he has is blocked. So we're going to go checkmate. The tactical pattern does not leap out at me. What I do see is that this is queening, so we should probably checkmate. And I have a check, and I have a check, and I have a check right here. That's bad. So we're going to have to figure something else out. I have a check right here. And then it looks like we could probably go like this. And so this queen is defended, right? So we can't go like check and then skewer the queen because it's protected. So we could go check here, and then we just have to check whether or not the king can move. And where can the king move to? Nowhere. This is called this is sort of like a dovetail mate. When you check diagonally, there's these two squares the king can move to. Usually you would want to see like a white pawn here to be a dovetail mate. This is close enough. So how do we find this? We look here, we look here, we look here, we look here, and then we looked at this check. So all those are checks. Only one of them works. Mate. A very typical epaulette mate. Two squares separated from the king. Queen goes over. And that's mate in one. No big problems there. No big deal. This is called a comebacker. Knight will take and then come back. There's an exposed queen over here. So how do we find this stuff? We look for targets. Those are undefended pieces. Beginner tip here. In the opening, these rooks are always undefended. So they can often be picked up if you just like fork them or something like that. Anytime you see a pawn move out of the way like this, you can bet there's going to be something coming in on that diagonal to a rook. In this case, it's the queen. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a piece and we're just going to check the material real quick. 3 minors against 3 minors. So all we have to do is pick up one piece, and that's going to be this guy. Your queen is hanging, so it has to trade itself off. And now, very importantly, we have to take this piece, and this is why it's called a comebacker, because the knight comes back and takes the queen. So we keep an extra piece there. It's a kissing queen. Aha. Very famous type of checkmate. This happens a lot in the Budapest Gambit, this style of thing. And for white, the same thing could happen in the, oh, what is it called? The Banco Gambit. And what we end up with is usually a queen actually on e2 here in the Banco Gambit. But it pins this pawn. And because this pawn is pinned, we actually have a checkmate. Okay, this has got a back rank bump. The king had to step over to defend this back rank square. So all we have to do is drive it away. How do we do that? We give it a check. And that forces it off of control here. And then we mate. Ooh, we have ourselves a discovered check. How do I see this? First of all, we look for targets, 1 and 1. So because it's attacked and defended the same amount of times, it's a target. And it looks like this will be mate in 2. So then I have to look for the weak and broken castle. Notice how there's all this air next to the king. So we're going to fill that in with pieces. So I'm going to go like this. And it's check. Now finally what's it called? It's called a kissing queen right next to her. Right? Gives him a little kiss on the nose. And it's mate. Okay. Looks like we just have to take advantage of the fact that this king is surrounded. Now, we're down a bishop and we're down a rook as white. So we basically have to win a king. It's not enough just to win a rook because we're still down a bishop. There is no queen to be won on the board. It's already gone. So we basically have to finish the game with just what we have on the board already. And it looks like we're going to go check using every piece we've got because we're running out. And the thing I see is that this knight controls this square. So the king has to go this way. And then we just have to keep looking at checks. And it looks like this is check. And then the knight blocks. And then we take it. And this is called a hook and ladder mate. I don't know. Is this the hook and this is the ladder? I don't know why it's called that. See it? It's checkmate, actually. Very common idea. So when you just have a queen against a king in the corner and there's nothing protecting it but another queen, it's a very common perpetual check. So you go here and then the queen blocks and you go here and the queen blocks and then you go here and the queen blocks and you go here and the queen blocks again. Okay. And that's very difficult. So what we can do instead is use the rook. So let's go here. Now that this is blocked, this is actually pinned. And so you can even use other pieces like a bishop right here. This is kind of cool. Like if there were a bishop here and this were blocked, let's say this was like a knight. I don't know. But we could put a bishop here. And it's funny because both the queen and king can take it, except the king can't take it because it's guarded. And that would be check. So it's illegal. And the queen can't take it because of the pin. In this case, it's not so complicated. It's just mate in 1. And the queen is pinned. So we'll use that theme of the pin. I think this one is a pretty simple one, but I'm just checking. Yeah. Yeah, it looks okay. We have even material, so we just have to win material. We don't have to checkmate or anything. So if I take this bishop, which is hanging, because it's a target, then we lose our rook, and it's actually mate. So instead, let's trade this. And now it's not checkmate, so we take this, and we don't care about that. And what the other thing you have to realize is there's no hope of anything ever queening there because we had a bishop guarding that square. So the king was guarding it, the bishop was guarding it from here, so we were all safe. Everything was safe. Looks like we just have to take correctly. And what is the problem with that? I don't know. If we take with the knight, then I don't see any problems. Knight takes knight, seems to be okay. Seems to win a piece. And bishop takes is a problem because of what? I guess bishop takes is a problem because the queen can go here, check. We take and the rook takes, and then I take a rook, and then they take our bishop, and this rook is stuck. That's the end of the line, I think. So we would have to block with like a knight, and they would take that, and it's check. No, it's not check, but anyway, that we would have lost this knight. So I think we're just gonna have to take with the knight. Sure. This was never a problem. I calculated that already because, the queen was held and protected, so it's fine. We're at 20. And we are 10 minutes into this. That's pretty good. 30 seconds a puzzle, even with explaining it. So we're white. We want to win material, and the rook is overworked. So let's check targets, okay? This is attacked once and defended once. It's a target. So this rook is attacked once and defended once, so it's a target. And then finally, 1 and 1. So I noticed that this rook was attacking or being the defender for 2 different objects. So I think we're just probably going to take the bishop. And then you're down a bishop, right? And then I'm threatening this rook. So if I take here... No, this is not right. Because I failed to account for the fact that I'm already down a bishop. So even winning a bishop doesn't seem to do much. Let's finish the calculation. You can't take. I take a rook. But then we are... Well, no, white is still winning that, but it's like not really like great. Not a whole lot of compensation there. So I think instead we're probably going to have to checkmate black. And whenever I say, oh, my first idea doesn't work, what else can we do? It usually becomes obvious. And so, right. And then we got a lid on this. So it actually turns out to be just fairly simple. The pawns guard these squares. And the rook guards all of these. Not that one. But this blue rook will guard all of these. Yeah. Almost missed one. Not because like we can't play chess, but because we're just not paying attention or moving quickly or something like that. You really do have to look around the board before you start thinking about what you're actually going to play. Although there's not really much to calculate here. The knight is pinned. It's not guarding this square. It's pinned by this bishop, you see. 8 and 1. Not so difficult. How can we take advantage of this and this? I don't know yet. I think we're just going to simply win material by going here. And then we lose our queen. And then we go here. So let's count material. So this is not a mating pattern because the king is not it's not really exposed too much. So I very quickly looked at checks, you know, or other sorts of sacrifices. They don't work. So now I'm starting to look at like, what else do we have in the position? Looks like we have even material. So the goal is probably to win a bishop. So what if we just take queen? And I see if they take back, I can't quite take this bishop because they will take my rook. So that doesn't exactly work. But if I take here and they take back, I can take their rook. And then they will take my rook. And I will have won. And then I just move my rook away. Probably here. And that seems to be okay. So I could take the queen. And the critical line is, what if they take my queen? Material is still even. So I probably take your check. And they go over here. And then it looks like I just have an extra piece. I just move the rook somewhere. I don't take their rook because then they take my rook. And I haven't won anything. So I'm pretty sure I take this bishop. Material is still even though we traded queens. I don't think I take the rook because they take my rook. And then I don't see any other way to win material. So I'm going to take this with check. That's it. Okay, cool. That's a pretty easy one. I'll give you a second to find it. Okay, there's your second. Target, target, and target. Right? So the next thing we do when we see targets is we look for lines that connect them. And we probably want to start with the highest valued. So that'd be the king and anything else. And king and queen is pretty much as good as you can get. And so since they're targets, tactics appear. So the second step 2 is we look at what lines they're connected on, and that's this diagonal. And now we try to put pieces on the diagonal. We see, what do we have? It's a skewer. And so then we take the queen next move. Pretty powerful skewer. So I think we're just going to go check. And then the king would have to go like maybe here. And then I go here. And the idea is actually that I'm going to mate this way. So that looks pretty promising. I think, in fact, we can just play it. I think I'm just going to clear the file. Yep, and then mate to follow. Okay. Hmm. Mm-hmm. Got it. Okay. Undefended piece. Target because it's attacked once and defended once, so that's a target. And then a king is always a target. So the queen is also undefended. So it has something to do with this constellation of pieces. And so what we're going to do is try to figure out the lines that connect the targets. And so I see that there's this, right? Connecting target, target, and target. And so now what I see is I can go bang, bang, and then check, and it's a fork. And I pick up a rook. So then I should have counted the material. If I were being disciplined, I should count the material. We have a bishop or a rook. So we need to basically win a rook. Then we'll have an extra bishop, and it's good enough. So let's go ahead and do that. So again, I found this by finding targets and counting the material. Okay, what's a target? Here's a target. It's undefended. This is not a target because it's attacked once, yes, but it's defended twice. So, like, for example, here, I don't have anything else to go on. This looks like, though, this should be just winning, though. Without win... I'm up 3 pawns. So that would be nice. It's unnecessary for us to realize. Maybe it is. But they could take our rook as well. So that's a problem. This is defended twice, so we just have to figure out how we can get out of this with tempo and everything. So I would love to go knight here. And that's how you do it. Okay. How do I find this, though? I find this sort of tactic by almost like process of elimination. I'm going to lose a knight somehow. So I have to figure out how I can save it. I either have to move the rook or I have to move the knight. And so knights have what I like to call an extra move. Okay, they can make a threat when they move that has to be answered, and then they can actually execute a different threat on the next move. So for this first move, what I'm going to do is take this pawn, and we see that the rook is attacked. And in fact, the black rook is trapped. It doesn't have a choice. It has to go somewhere. And here's what I mean. I'm taking one threat, but I get an extra move with the knight. Because watch, you have to spend a move taking my rook. And now, this knight, for some reason, it just feels like they have extra powers. I think it's because they can't go the multiple squares at the same time. Like a bishop can go here or here, right? In one move. A knight can't ever do that. They have to go one by one by one. And so this is the extra move I'm talking about. Haha. And I got, basically we traded rooks. Okay, so we're black, huh? Oh, okay, I got it. Huh. So I definitely solved the puzzle, but I'm wondering why it's not. Oh, because this is a pin. So there's never any threat of taking the queen. Okay, well, it's like this. You just have to know this one. This has a special name as well. King goes here, queen goes here, and it's mate. It does mate in 2. And I always get a little confused around these points because they seem too easy. So I'm going to give you a second to find it while I think about what is so hard about this. It seems quite the obvious one. I'm not in check or anything, so yeah. Huh. Okay. I call these free puzzles. I'm not sure what's going on. I think maybe people just move very quickly. They play the first thing they see and it's wrong, and so maybe they don't get it right too often, but it looks like that's just mate in 1. Mate in 1 for a 1500 level puzzle seems extreme. Okay, so we are playing black, and we've got to... We have even material. So probably we're going to want to go here, here, and then push the pawns. Seems to be what I think is going to happen. We're basically making a passed pawn. So what if I go here, and then they take... I wonder if I want to take their rook first or not. I think I do. I take the rook, and they take. Because now they don't have any passed pawns. Yeah, that's it. As long as I take this rook, this pawn has to take back. And what that does is it puts both of these on the same file. Which is cool, because that means white has to win both of these pawns. And that takes a while. 1, 2, 3 moves. Do. Whereas I go, bang. And I'm already off to the races. Now, how I've said this before, but I'll say it again for the first time in this run. How I find pawn races is I just say, when is my pawn clear to run? And then I don't count the number of moves it takes. I just say how far up the board is it. And it's on the 4th rank. So what I'm thinking is here, here, take. And I got to this point and I just said, okay, I take here and white goes here. Now at that point, I stop. And I just say, my pawn on the file is clear to run. Theirs is not, because they're blocked by their own king. So at a minimum, I'm queening first. I have the move. My pawn is farther up the board than theirs. Nothing can stop it from queening. That's the answer. So what if here? And the rook just moves out of the way. Oh, it can't. It can't go here. Anywhere on the file, I take it. Or rank, I take it. And it can't go here or here because there's pawns there. And it can't go backward because it's own pawn. So that must be it. Yeah, and now I already calculated this. So now I'm just going to go here and note that my pawn is already ahead of the race. So see, this is the point I got to. It didn't matter which way white went here. I have a pawn that's clear to run and it's on the 4th rank. They have a pawn on the 4th rank, but they are not clear to run. So I will go here and their pawn will be here. Watch, I queen, and then they will go here. And win. Pawn race. Material is almost even. They have an extra pawn. And I think I can just go here. Here, here, queen. This is fine, actually, because there's a rook here. So maybe the flaw would be going something like this check. I don't really see what that would do, so I think I am just going to push a pawn. And there's no way for the rook to come back to the back rank. Okay, when it's rook against pawn, there are basically a few things you need to think about. Who can trade the rooks? It looks like white can trade rooks here. Not that they can force in this position, but rather if the rooks just disappeared, poofed off the board, who would win? It'd be white, because the white king can stop this pawn easily, and this pawn cannot be stopped. So white would be winning. So that's the first thing you want to look at. Second thing, what if the rook plays offense? What if the rook goes here? And then bang, bang. Then I'd be forced to take it, and they would win a rook. So by the time that happens, I know what my plan is. I'll go bang, bang, and I'll have a queen. And in fact, I queen first. And then the other thing you want to think about is, what if the rook plays defense? What if it comes back? And here we see that that is actually not possible. And this is the key, and this is kind of how my pattern recognition came into effect, as I see it's blocked, and it's blocked. So there isn't any method by which it can come to the defense. So defense is ruled out. These are illegal. Defense with the king is illegal because of the rook. And offense with the pawn doesn't matter. Because I have the move. I will go here. They'll go here. I will queen. And they cannot queen because I'm defending that. You see how my rook is playing defense, but their rook is not? That's the difference. Simple. This is like Anastasia's mate. Rook. I don't really think there's much else to think about here. If king here, this attacks the rook and it can't leave. And if king here, this is actually a fork. So. What else is there? But winning a rook isn't enough, huh? Aha. Made a mistake. So actually, if king here, it's actually going to be check here, king up, and then rook is actually going to mate. It's actually checkmate. So let's play the first move. Okay, so they went the harder way because it's mate otherwise. But can I still just go here anyway? It's a mate threat. It's illegal for the king to move. We know that. It's illegal for the rook to move. We know that. And if this knight moves to one of its 2 legal moves, this is still checkmate anyway, because the rook still covers that square that the knight was sitting on. So I think that's it. The only other option is like just give me a rook to delay mate for a single move. Can the knight? This knight doesn't have like any effect because it can't stop. It can't get to this square, and it can't like block me anyway. It can't somehow get to one of these squares to prevent the rook. So this looks good. And the way I find this is, first of all, knowing mate patterns, but second of all, recognizing piece by piece. When you're about to checkmate and you're going to set a mating net, you can spend the entire rest of your clock figuring it out. So just look at every single piece. No, 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 and no. And the pawns don't do anything. So if you have like even 10 minutes on your clock or something, just check every single piece. You have the time. Just do it. Mate. Because if it's mate, it's the end of the game. You don't need the rest of your time. Okay, I don't actually... This is the first one I don't immediately see. We have 26 minutes on the clock. I only want to do this one for about 30 minutes. That's about how much time I have. This looks like the obvious first move, and then check, and then here. Is it an epaulette mate? Yeah, of course it is. Okay, it's just an epaulette mate. There's a... You can look that up. Epaulettes are the things that go on your military shoulders, right? Like insignia. It's these rooks. They're like on the king's shoulders. That's a mate. Okay, I think we're going to pause right there. 33 is pretty good. We haven't had any X's yet. I think we did that fairly quickly. Oh, can I just mate in one? No, I can't because this is hanging. All right, well, we're going to think about this one next time. I'm going to cut it off here. I had fun. I hope you had fun. I hope that this series goes a long, long way. 33 into this. I feel like we're halfway there. I want to get to 60. So hang around for episode 2, and I'll see you next time.